I discovered my sister was sleeping with my fiancé. Months later, my parents begged me to start fresh and invited her to my new wedding. So I introduced her to everyone as the homewrecker. You know that feeling when your entire world just shatters into a million pieces? I'm talking about the kind of betrayal that makes you question everything you thought you knew, that rips your family apart and leaves an emotional crater that never quite fills. For me, that nightmare began when I found out the man I was about to marry, my high school sweetheart, had been secretly sleeping with my own sister. For most of my life, my family seemed pretty good. My parents, Leonard and Margaret, had their ups and downs, but they were loving and supportive. And then there was Nicole, my younger sister. We were close, not perfect, but I never imagined anything could seriously come between us. I was head over heels for Patrick. We'd been together since high school, and our wedding was planned. My parents were even helping out financially. Everything felt perfect, like a dream. Then, everything came crashing down. I found out Nicole and Patrick had been seeing each other behind my back. It wasn't just a one-time mistake. It had been going on for months. At first, I couldn't believe it. It felt absurd, like a bad movie plot. I thought I was imagining things. But then I saw the text messages on Patrick's phone, and they told me everything. There it was, plain as day. The man I loved, the one I was supposed to marry, had been cheating on me with my little sister. The messages were clear. Not flirty, not friendly, but deeply personal, intimate. They even joked about sneaking around, about how clueless I was. My heart literally shattered as I read them. This wasn't a mistake. It was months of calculated lies and pure, brutal betrayal. What hurt most was how much I'd trusted them both. Patrick and Nicole always got along, and I just assumed it was normal, friendly sibling fiancé behavior. I never suspected anything more. I kept replaying all the times we were together, the three of us, laughing, spending time, while they were secretly tearing my life apart. How could they lie to me like that? My fiancé and my sister, two people who should have cared for me most, had completely broken me. I barely made it through the next few days. My heart was a hollow ache. Patrick didn't even try to explain himself. When I confronted Nicole, she didn't seem truly sorry. She muttered an apology, but it felt utterly insincere. How could she have done that to me, after everything we'd shared? I canceled the wedding, broke up with Patrick, and cut all contact with Nicole. I couldn't even look at her. It hurt too much. My parents were furious with Nicole, too, but they were completely lost on how to handle it. They couldn't believe it either. That was about 5 years ago. Fast forward 3 years, and I met Liam. Things started to feel right again. A year and a half ago, we started planning our wedding. That's when the conversation with my mom happened. She called one evening, offering to pay for the entire wedding, but with a condition. She said if I invited Nicole and her family, we could start fresh, fix the family, and move forward. My first thought was, no way in hell. There was no way I was letting her back into my life that easily after what she did. But then, my mom kept pushing. The money. They were offering to pay for everything. Liam and I could afford a decent wedding, but not my dream wedding. It felt like an ultimatum. I wanted my dream wedding, but I couldn't just pretend everything was fine with Nicole. Still, we were in a tough spot. After thinking about it, I reluctantly agreed. I invited Nicole, but only because I couldn't let the financial situation ruin everything for Liam and me. The wedding day finally arrived, and honestly, I was a bundle of nerves. The tension between me and my sister was palpable. How was I supposed to act like everything was normal? I kept telling myself, this isn't about her. This is about Liam and me, and our future. Everything went smoothly at first. Liam looked amazing. The ceremony was perfect. I felt beautiful in my dress, surrounded by loved ones rooting for us. But as the day wore on, my stress levels soared. Nicole and her family arrived. I couldn't even bring myself to look at her. She was acting like nothing had happened, smiling, chatting, as if she hadn't slept with my fiancé and torn my world apart. My stomach twisted every single time I saw her. I had agreed to invite her, but I absolutely refused to pretend. Later, at the reception, everyone was gathered around the bar, laughing and having fun. I saw Nicole standing with Nate, her husband, and their kids. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I walked right up to them, making sure everyone around could hear me. I casually introduced her to the group, but instead of just saying, "This is my sister," I added, "And this is Nicole, the homewrecker." The room fell absolutely silent. I saw her face go pale, her smile instantly faltering. People started looking at her, then back at me, trying to piece it together. Nicole was shocked, definitely. But I didn't care. I wasn't going to pretend everything was okay. She didn't deserve to be treated like some innocent guest after what she'd done. Patrick was just a guy, but she was my sister. She should have known better. Nicole tried to pull me aside, to talk, but I just walked away. I couldn't be near her. Not after everything. She stood there looking like she was about to cry, but I was numb to it. She had no right to act like the victim. The rest of the evening was incredibly awkward. People kept staring at Nicole, whispering behind their hands. I sensed the tension, but it didn't bother me anymore. I had done what I had to do. I wasn't going to let her continue with her life, pretending nothing had happened. I couldn't let my parents believe everything was fine when it wasn't. It felt incredibly good to finally tell everyone the truth, even if it made them uncomfortable. Liam and I tried to enjoy the rest of the night, but things definitely felt different. The weight of the situation was heavy, but I couldn't change what Nicole had done, and I wasn't about to act like it didn't matter just because it was my wedding. As the night progressed, Nicole avoided me. My parents were too upset to say much to either of us. I could tell they didn't agree with how I'd handled things, but deep down, I think they understood why. They didn't say much, and neither did I. I wasn't going to let her get away with it. The rest of the night blurred into awkward glances, hushed conversations, and an overall sense of unease. I'm still not sure if what I did was the right thing, but in that moment, it felt like the only thing I could do. Months later, things were still messy. My parents definitely thought I was wrong, too petty. They kept saying it was old drama, that I should have been more mature, that I made things worse. They blamed me for what happened next. Nicole's marriage to Nate was falling apart. He was furious after hearing what I'd said at the wedding. Nicole had never told him the whole truth, so he felt utterly betrayed. He no longer trusted her. But I didn't agree with my parents. I felt like I had every right to call her out. She ruined my engagement. I wasn't about to pretend it never happened. She never even apologized for what she did, never acknowledged how much she hurt me. So, was I the jerk for what I did at my wedding? Should I have just kept quiet and let Nicole slide by? Or was it right to let everyone know? Then, things escalated dramatically. My parents came to visit, and I could tell something was seriously wrong. My mom immediately brought up Nicole and Nate. She said their marriage was in freefall. Nate had been distant, cold. After he found out about Patrick, he was a different person. He barely spoke to Nicole, and when he did, it was arguments or just about the kids. He questioned everything about their relationship, wondering what else she was hiding. He told my mom, if she had told me about Patrick, I wouldn't have cared about this. But since she hid it, I can't shake it off. He was struggling to trust her again. A few weeks prior, Nate had dropped a bombshell on Nicole. He wanted a paternity test for their kids. That completely blindsided her. My mom said Nicole was furious at first, refused, but eventually caved. The test was done, but the results weren't back yet. The strange part was how anxious Nicole was about it. My mom confessed the truth. Nicole had actually slept with Patrick a few times after she got married to Nate. My head spun. I couldn't believe it. My mom looked so disappointed. She said Nicole was a complete mess, constantly crying, telling her mom she didn't want to lose her marriage. But how could she save it when she'd been hiding something this monumental? My dad, who usually stays out of these things, chimed in. He said Nate had every right to be upset, and that Nicole's choices were finally catching up to her. He didn't defend her, but he also said it was sad to see her life crumbling. He thought she was just overwhelmed by guilt, but honestly, that's no excuse for what she'd done. Nicole was struggling, and my parents were terrified for her. My mom said she was constantly on edge, snapping at everyone. My dad mentioned she was calling them nonstop, crying, saying she didn't know what to do. But at the same time, she still hadn't admitted anything to Nate. She was just waiting for the test results, hoping it would all somehow blow over. I didn't think there was any chance of that. Even if the kids were Nate's, the damage to their marriage was already catastrophic. My mom said Nate barely talked to Nicole. He kept his distance. When they did, it turned into an argument. My parents could feel the tension even when they weren't in the same room. When I asked my mom why Nicole kept going back to Patrick, she had no answer. She said she'd been asking herself the same thing, wondering where she went wrong as a parent. She said Nicole wasn't always like this, that she didn't recognize her anymore. As for Patrick, he had entirely moved on. He was married, had children, and didn't seem to care about Nicole anymore. He'd made a life for himself. He only came back to her on a few occasions, but it was clear she was just an extra in his life, someone he called when it was convenient. He wasn't emotionally invested in her at all. But Nicole was stuck in this toxic pattern. It was difficult for me to feel sympathetic. I understood how this was tearing my parents apart, but Nicole made her own decisions. She chose to cheat on her husband, and now she had to deal with the consequences. I felt genuinely terrible for Nate. He had no idea what he was getting into. I decided to stay out of it. My relationship with Nicole had been strained for years, and I didn't want to be dragged into her mess again. But it was hard to ignore how much this was affecting my parents. My mom kept saying she wished she could help Nicole, but what could she do? Nicole had to face this herself. Everything hinged on those paternity test results. My parents were holding their breath. Then the results finally came in, and things got real. The first child was not Nate's. The second one was. It was a shock, but at the same time, it didn't really surprise me. Nicole had been avoiding the truth for so long, and now it was all out in the open. When she found out, she called my mom right away. I was actually sitting there, so I heard my mom's side of the conversation. She was screaming at Nicole, completely losing it. I don't blame her. The situation was a total mess, and my mom had held on to hope that things would work out for Nicole, but this was just too much. Later that day, my mom called me. I could tell something was wrong instantly. She was crying. She said Nate had asked for a divorce. I mean, what else could he do at that point? Nicole had hurt him in so many ways, and now the truth was out. It was the absolute last straw. I honestly couldn't blame him for wanting to end it. Nicole spiraled into a complete breakdown. She was calling and texting Nate, begging him to stay, but it was obvious he wasn't interested. He was done. I'm sure it was painful for her, but I couldn't feel sorry. She made her bed, and now she had to lie in it. It was hard to see her like that, but she put herself in this position, and there was no one else to blame. A few days later, Nicole called me from an unknown number. I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity got the best of me. I was surprised to hear it was her, and she was sobbing on the other end. She was begging me to talk to Nate, to do something, anything, to fix things. I had no idea what she thought I could possibly do, but I just couldn't bring myself to help. I told her there was nothing I could do. This was her mess to fix, not mine. I ended the call as quickly as I could, but she didn't stop. She kept texting me, trying to guilt-trip me by talking about her kids. She said they would be devastated by the divorce, that their whole life would fall apart. And yeah, I get it. The kids are innocent in all this, but I wasn't about to get dragged into their drama. I don't know them well, but they're still kids, and I'm not completely heartless. So, I told Nicole I would help the kids if they ever needed anything, but I was not going to try to fix things between her and Nate. That wasn't my place. This was her responsibility, and she needed to face the consequences of her actions. I told my parents what happened, and they both agreed I shouldn't get involved. They said Nicole might try to blame me, or make me feel bad for not helping. I agreed because I didn't want to be pulled into it. Nicole had made choices that led her to this point. She wasn't the victim. Sometimes I wonder if I could have handled things differently, maybe not caused a scene at my wedding. But the truth is, Nicole's actions were her own. No matter how I look at it, she made the decision to sleep with Patrick even after she was married to Nate. Nobody forced her. Nate would have found out eventually, and the entire situation would have blown up sooner or later. So, I'm trying not to think about the what-ifs. It happened, and she has to deal with it. I can't help but feel sorry for Nate. He didn't deserve any of this. He loved Nicole, and everything just came crashing down. I can't imagine what it's like to find out your wife has been keeping such a huge secret. He has every reason to be angry and upset. Nicole betrayed his trust, and I think he's secretly convinced everything he knew about their relationship was a lie. It's hard, because part of me feels bad for Nicole, but at the same time, I know she brought this on herself. I've been trying to stay out of it, but it's not easy. My parents are worried, and they want to help, but it's clear Nicole needs to face the music. She can't keep running away from it. I wasn't sure what would happen next. Nicole was still trying to cling to her marriage, but it was clear Nate wasn't interested. He'd asked for a divorce, and I didn't see how anything would change that. I thought it was just a matter of time before they officially split. But even then, I didn't know if Nicole would ever truly be able to move on from this. She'd made so many mistakes, and it was going to take a long time for her to rebuild her life, if she ever could. I was trying to keep my distance. It wasn't my job to fix it, and I told her that. I just wish things had turned out differently, but I can't change the past. Then, a surprising turn. My mom called me, saying Nate wanted to talk. I was honestly pretty shocked. I'd never really talked to Nate before, beyond a brief hello at my wedding. He'd always just been Nicole's husband. My mom didn't know what it was about, but suggested I talk to him. I was unsure, hesitant to get dragged back into Nicole's life, but I agreed. The next day, Nate called. He asked if I'd be comfortable meeting him, but I told him truthfully that I wasn't. After everything, staying out of it felt like the only option. He understood, but then he said he needed my advice. Apparently, since Nicole was my sister, he thought I might know her better than anyone else. I was baffled. What could he possibly need from me? He then asked me the most unexpected question. Do you think Nicole is worth another chance? I was completely taken aback. How could I even answer that? It didn't feel like my place to tell him whether he should forgive her or not. He explained that everyone around him was expecting him to fix things with Nicole because they had a child together. He mentioned that she wasn't involved with Patrick anymore, and that seemed to be the main reason people thought they could work it out. But he needed to know, as her sister, if I thought Nicole was worth him trying again. Honestly, I didn't know how to answer him. I told him it wasn't my place to make that decision for him. It was something he needed to figure out on his own. I explained that I cut Nicole out of my life because it felt like the right thing to do for me, but that didn't mean he had to do the same. If he thought there was a chance for them to fix things, then he should follow his heart. But I couldn't tell him if that would be the right path. I also told him he needed to consider what was best for him and the kids. He had to do what would bring him peace, because no matter what decision he made, he would have to live with it. Then Nate said something that really made me pause. He told me he couldn't even look at their older child the same way anymore. Every time he looked at her, he just remembered that Nicole had slept with Patrick. He said he didn't blame the child. Of course, she was only 3 and had no part in it. But he couldn't shake the feeling. He still wanted to love her the way he did before, but it was incredibly hard. He just didn't know how to get past it. I understood. I can't imagine what it would be like to feel that way, especially about an innocent child. It must be heartbreaking for him. I told him I understood how he felt, that I couldn't know what it was like to walk in his shoes, but I could imagine it was incredibly tough to deal with those emotions. I didn't know what to tell him to do, but I hoped he would find a way to work through it, one way or another. Nate thanked me for listening and said he would take some time to think things over. After that, he ended the call. Nicole's breakdown continued. She kept calling and texting me, still trying to get me to talk to Nate, still wanting me to help fix things. But it was abundantly clear that this wasn't something I could fix. At the end of the day, I was trying to stay out of it as much as possible. It wasn't my job to fix their marriage. I'd been hurt by Nicole, and I didn't want to get dragged into this mess again, but I couldn't help but feel bad for the kids. I just hoped they'd end up okay, no matter what happened between Nate and Nicole. Well, it's been a long time since I posted an update, and a few more things have happened. For about 6 months, Nate tried so hard to forgive Nicole and keep their family together. He truly wanted to move on. They went to therapy. They went on vacation. They tried everything they could think of. But then, there was a huge argument where Nicole lashed out at him. She blamed him for not doing enough to fix their marriage. She felt she was giving everything, and if he genuinely cared, he would work harder, put in the same effort she was. But Nate felt like no matter how hard he tried, it was never enough. He finally realized there was something fundamentally wrong that couldn't be fixed with just effort. He reached his breaking point. He told Nicole he simply couldn't stay with her. He couldn't keep pretending things were fine when they weren't. He realized he couldn't get past what she did, so he filed for divorce. Nicole was devastated, of course, and she tried everything to make him change his mind. She begged, she cried, but Nate stuck to his decision. He promised her that even though their marriage was ending, he would always be there for their children. He would do everything he could to make sure they had a good life and never felt abandoned. But as far as his relationship with Nicole, he just couldn't keep going, couldn't keep pretending. After trying for a while, Nicole finally stopped fighting for the marriage. She understood Nate wasn't going to change his mind. She moved back into my parents' house, and that's where she's been ever since. They are officially divorced, but it was a quiet divorce. No drama, just done. I've seen Nicole a couple of times since the divorce, but it's always weird. We don't really talk. It's more like we just acknowledge the other person is there, and that's it. It feels strange because we used to be so close, but now it's just awkward. There's not really anything to say anymore. It's clear that things between us will never be the same, and I'm not sure I want them to be. I still don't trust her. The kids, they're still really young, and I feel so bad for them. They don't really understand what's going on. All they know is that their parents aren't living together anymore. They go back and forth between living with Nate and Nicole, and I can only imagine how confusing and hard that must be for them. So, that's where things are. It's quiet now. Everyone is just figuring out how to move on. This whole ordeal taught me that some wounds never truly heal, and some betrayals change the fabric of your family forever. It also solidified one thing for me. Sometimes, the hardest choices are the ones that save you, even if they shatter everything else around you.